This one mistake is costing you more credibility than you think. You spend hours creating content, but if you're making this research mistake, your audience won't trust what you're saying. In fact, according to recent studies, 63% of readers find blogs with multiple sources more credible than single source content. Here's the question. With every post you publish, are you building credibility or destroying it? Stick around because I'm about to show you exactly how to research like a pro and turn your content into the go-to resource for your niche. Hey, I'm Daree. 2 years ago, one of my clients published what she thought was an amazing blog post. After she spent hours writing it and published it, she was super proud, and then crickets. No engagement, no shares, nothing. It wasn't until months later she realized she hadn't backed up a single claim in her content with solid research. So that content that she spent all that time making gave her no authority or credibility in her industry. But in this video, I'm going to share the exact research system that I teach my clients. We'll cover the tools that go beyond Google, how to spot reliable sources instantly, and a system to organize your info that cuts your research time in half. Plus, I'll show you more mistakes to avoid so that you too won't kill your credibility. I'm going to give you 5 points. Research matters more than you think. Blogs aren't considered credible sources by academic standards because they don't go through peer reviews and rigorous fact-checking. But when you back up your claims with solid data, expert opinions, and reliable resources, especially those that are fact-checked, you bridge that credibility gap instantly. Think about it this way. Would you trust health advice from someone that's just sharing their personal opinions? Or from someone who quotes medical studies from expert physicians? That's the power of good research. Plus, having a blog increases your search ranking chances by, get this, 434%. But when that blog is backed by well-researched content, you don't just rank higher, you earn backlinks from others in your industry and establish your authority. Number 2, essential research tools beyond Google. Google is just a starting point, not the finish line. Let me show you the tools that will give you access to the information you need. First, we have Google Scholar. It gives you access to academic papers without needing university credentials. Then there's Google Trends, which shows you exactly which topics people are talking about. But here's where it gets interesting. Tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush and Key Search are not just tools for SEO. They're gold mines for content research. And BuzzSumo can show you which types of content perform best in your industry. Also for academic research, you've got JSTOR, PubMed, and my personal favorite, Mendeley. And here's a pro tip. Check if your local library gives you access to premium databases like EBSCO. Many public libraries offer this free to cardholders. Check out the link in my description below for a blog post that links to all of these different databases. How to spot reliable sources. Not all information online is created equal, and knowing the difference can make or break your site's credibility. Start with the URL. If it ends with .gov, .edu, or .org, they typically provide more trustworthy information. But don't stop there. Look for author credentials, publication dates, and most importantly, citations and references backing up claims. Here is the key word that you need to know. Corroboration. I know we're not detectives, we're not looking for evidence, but we actually are. Corroboration is a big fancy word, but fact-checking is serious business and you want to give your readers and your audience the truth. When I find an interesting fact or statistic, I trace it to the primary source, which is also known as original sources or original research. Then I'll check if multiple reputable sources report the same information. When you do this, you've corroborated the info and verified its accuracy. But if something only appears on one website, it might be a red flag. Be especially careful with AI-generated content. It hallucinates. It only takes one factual error to damage the reputation that you're trying to build and keep. Speaking of which, I'll show you how I incorporate AI research into my workflow when I'm writing blog posts at the end of this video, so stay to the end. 4, use a simple organization system. Here's something that most creators, solopreneurs, students, bloggers get wrong. They spend hours researching, and then they waste even more time trying to find their sources when writing. Orbit Media's latest survey shows that blog posts usually take about 4 hours to write. But disorganized research can double that time. So let me share a simple system to help avoid that. You want to create a document or spreadsheet for your project with source URLs, quotes with page numbers, your own insights and notes, and tags to group related information. When we talk about quotes, it's good to use Google Chrome for this because you can right-click and select highlight in order to hyperlink directly to the place where the information is being cited from. Not just the high-level top of the blog post, but the actual sentence or paragraph that you're talking about. I use the free version of Notion and LibreOffice, which is a free open source version of Word, in order to keep track of my info, but you can keep it simple with a Google Doc. The key is to pay attention to detail so you can stay on track and refer to notes and sources easily later. I'm basically going to reverse engineer how I organize my research, how I do my blogs, and incorporate AI. So what you see right here is a page that I made in Notion called ABC that records everything that I write about on my website. And so I have the name of the article here. I made different tags up as to what it could possibly be about. These are the things that I talk about. And then my word count, when did I publish it? Where is the site that it was published? Because sometimes I write for other companies. Let's just use this caregiver guilt as the item that we're going to reverse engineer that I published a couple months ago. Right now, deselect that. If I were to click into this, there we go. Takes you into the page where I have documented a lot of these things. And the things I've documented here, I've gotten from Claude. So we're kind of going backwards a little bit. We go back to the top here and I'll come back. Okay, so for the first step, what you do is you decide on your topic. This topic is caregiver guilt. And then you run a prompt to get an outline. AI is wonderful for outlining. There's many professional bloggers like myself that use it as a shortcut to get things going, because there's nothing worse when you're trying to write than to try to start with a blank page. So this particular prompt that you see here came from Adam Enfoy. I've got him linked in the description below, but literally his YouTube page as of this publication is his name. And yeah, it's a long prompt. So basically, I'm just going to walk you through it briefly. We're telling the AI tool that they are a content strategist and SEO expert. They're going to create an outline for us. It's going to be SEO optimized with target keywords, how many characters each thing should be, meta description, intro, conclusion, blah, blah, blah. I have tweaked this a bit, so what you see on the screen right now is not exactly what he has, but I found that there were a lot of words that AI loves to use in phrases. And so I've added a few little things here that are just to my liking. So I've used this particular prompt and I give it the topic, and then here is the outline. Going to click on it. By the way, so on the right, you can see what it came up with. Navigating caregiver guilt. Now, did I use this whole meta description and this whole introduction as is? No, I did not. If I did, it wouldn't be horrible, but I absolutely read through everything. This is not the actual blog post. This is the outline, but we have instructed it in the prompt to give us a full meta description, intro, and conclusion. Claude just happens to be the best, in my opinion, as of 2025, as far as keeping things organized and the way that it comes up with writing. I like it better than ChatGPT and the others. And then here is the outline that I came up with based off of my topic. And by the way, Claude cannot access the internet. So anything that you want to feed it about your brand, voice, and tone, any kind of facts, reports, you need to attach that and then add it into your prompt. Otherwise, it won't know. This is my heading 2. Heading 1 is always the title of the actual blog. Only one heading 1. Heading 2, and then there's a whole bunch of heading 3s underneath it, and then another heading 2, practical strategies, blah, 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 blah. So what I did was I took this, copied it, brought it into my Notion page, and I'm going to expand this so it's easier to see. At the end, when I finished posting it, I went ahead and put the link in here so that I could quickly get to it as well as from that ABC page. But I pasted in the keywords. I did my own key research beforehand as well to get some keywords. And then I copied in everything we just saw in Claude into this page before I started writing. Typically, I would have used Google Docs to write things, and you certainly can. You can use Grammarly, you can use whatever writing tool you want. But in this case, actually, I think that's what I did because I used to have a Google Workspace for that. Anyway, I actually wrote the blog someplace else. That's the point. The next thing I want to do in order to get this blog going is after I have copied this information, which is the outline and its keywords that I asked it for, right? I asked it to alphabetize them. Then I took this whole thing and then I made another prompt. I came into Perplexity. That's what this tool is. It's got this little logo. And I said, here's my whole prompt. This is not from Adam. This is from somebody a couple years ago on LinkedIn, and I've tweaked the heck out of it. So I don't even know who it is to reference it. If you are interested in it, just leave me a message in the comments and I'll send it to you via Instagram or LinkedIn or something. So using the topics in my outline below, which is the outline I just copied from Claude, create an article about caregiver guilt that is no less than 1,500 words. Now, I'm telling it a very precise number of words, and it's important that it has a certain number of words. But over the last year or so, I've noticed that no matter what AI tool you pop this into, it may or may not ignore your request. You might get 800 words from this request. You might get 3,000 words from this request. I'm not really sure how to make it do what you said the first time, but in any case, this is just a tool that is doing for us, but we are going to do the thinking, AKA we will do the actual research. And so if it's too long, if it's too short, we can tweak that later. Then I give it a role again, acting as a professional human blogger, blah, blah, blah. Then I say keep it to a 10th grade level or less. As I've evolved, I've actually started since then to change it to either 7th or 8th grade. And then I'll pick and choose which words to keep because sometimes the AI tool will ignore this as well. And so you can use tools like Hemingway or Readability to tweak it down to the level that you need it to be. Using a mix of formatting options such as this, that, and the third, we're going to make sure it's interesting, basically. We don't want long blocks of text. That's what I've been talking about in all my previous videos. Don't do that. People scan, they don't read online. It's too hard to absorb the information. So I'm just giving it a lot of instructions on how I want it to be written. Active voice, it often ignores this as well. But since I know what active and passive are, I can fix that later. And then here's the most important part for the purpose of this video for research. We want to have real example statistics and data points with citations. It will sometimes hallucinate and make things up. And so we must make sure that we have example statistics and data points. Okay. So all of this you see here, you can absolutely go back, rewind, pause what you need to get this information. Or again, I'm happy to send it to you via a social media account. So keywords, copied that in. I just basically told it, here's my outline, here's my keywords, here's how I want you to write it. And here we go. It gave me 20 sources. Usually that's very low. Normally it gives me about 100. I don't know why it always skips me up to the top. It's annoying. But anyway, it gave me 20 sources, and this I use as a jumping off point. Do I use all 20 of these sources? Absolutely not. Some of them are irrelevant. Some of them don't match the criteria that I talked about earlier in this video. So for the purposes of, how I do this, I go through each of these links and I also do some searching on my own with things like JSTOR, PubMed, and the others that I mentioned earlier. And I see what's what. And I match everything to where it is in the actual document. So for example, here in the answer is the full document. Again, it just keeps taking me to the top. So here's the top, here's the title that it gave, Finding Compassion and Peace of Mind. And then all the headings are the way they were in Claude, but then it fills in more information. You notice that it's not a whole long block of text. It is broken up by bullet points, bolding text, things like that. So it's pretty decent. I don't remember how many words this was, but according to what I had, let's see, ABC, it says, okay, so it was less than 1,500 words after I put my human thinking cap on with it, which is fine. It wasn't an assignment for, a client or something, but I absolutely could have done more information and got more from it. Sometimes Perplexity, Gemini, some of the others will give you the citations that you asked for in order here. We don't see a list, we just see one. But if you were to copy this, okay, and then paste it into anything, let me go back just to give you an example. If I were to paste this in here, you would notice that not only did it do the whole document, but now we have all the citations here as well. And I can directly click them out. I'm going to undo that because I'm done with this and I don't need it. But that's how you would run the prompt in Claude first, in my opinion. You could do it all in ChatGPT. You could do it all in Gemini or whatever you want, but this is the way that I like to use it. And you will find that different AI tools are really good at different things. They're not all excellent with writing. They're not all excellent with deep research. They're not all excellent with, every type of task that you want to do. So you're going to have to experiment a little bit and see what your preference is. I have also used Gemini for these prompts. I've also used Gemini instead of Perplexity, and I think it's a little bit better, but I will through that entire generated article, which I consider an absolute rough draft, check every source that it gave me, as well as finding points. The way Perplexity used to work here is that it used to put the numbers right within the section embedded. And sometimes it doesn't. It just picks and chooses when it feels like doing it. I don't know if that's because I'm using the free version. Not sure. But sometimes it does it that way, sometimes it doesn't. So anyway, I read through the entire generated article, which I consider a rough draft. I check every source that it's listed, and I also find my own sources because, as I mentioned, whether it's 20 sources or 100, you're not going to use everything that you're presented with. And some of the things that you see in the list have nothing to do with the topic that you have entered. That's just the way AI is. It has its own mind per se, and that's why we need to keep on thinking and keep on using our human brains that God gave us to complete our research. So to summarize this in a more coherent fashion, the first step is to take your topic and run Adam's prompt to get an outline. Step 2 is to draft the blog in another tool like Perplexity or Gemini, and then check the citations, find your own, and make sure that the draft is to your liking, but you're copying the information from Claude into here. You're copying that outline in order to get the blog. And then you read through the entire rough draft article that was generated. You check every source and you replace the ones that are inaccurate or won't work with sources that do. I think this is great for solopreneurs because we just don't have a lot of time and we don't have any staff. All of this is confusing the heck out of you. I am a professional content strategist and ready to help if you need me. Remember, this saves you a lot of time on the front end, but whenever you use AI tools, let AI do, but you, my dear human friend, think. You do the thinking. I am a lifelong perfectionist. I could say recovering perfectionist, but it's still in me. So I understand about analysis paralysis. Perfectionism in research, when it leads to analysis paralysis, it makes your project take longer to finish than it has to. So set boundaries, define specific questions you need to answer, set a time limit like 30 to 60 minutes, and stop collecting sources once you have 3 to 5 solid references for each point. And now for our final point, 4 common mistakes that will kill your credibility. So remember that story I was talking about at the beginning of this video where my client had written a blog, but she didn't have research incorporated? Let me save you from that mistake and 3 others that could kill your business reputation. First, using old, outdated, stale information. If it's more than 5 years old, especially in fast-changing fields like health, tech, and finance, question it. Second, relying on just one single source. This weakens your content and makes you vulnerable if that source gets discredited later. Number 3 is one of the biggest mistakes, which is research procrastination. If you're spending more time researching than writing, you have fallen into the rabbit hole. So set clear boundaries and stick to them. 30 to 60 minutes max. Let AI help you with some of the heavy lifting up front, but you do the writing and you do the research. And 4, confirmation bias. We naturally seek out information that confirms and proves what we already believe. So actively look for sources that could challenge those assumptions. Great long-form content must contain information that you got from research. But to make this part of your content creation sustainable, use these techniques to find the right information, then organize it effectively with a simple, easy system you can stick to, and present it in a way that builds trust with your audience. So use tools besides Google, verify your sources, organize your info as you go, and set clear boundaries to avoid analysis paralysis. Try out these research tips and let me know if this video helped you. And then like this video and subscribe for more content tips that will help you level up your solopreneur business.